This is the Hollywood Outsider, a weekly entertainment podcast where this week we are looking at upcoming releases including Argo, Sinister, and 7 Psychopaths. Way too many S's. Spoiler-free reviews of Looper, Pitch Perfect, even Hotel Transylvania. Plus, we're going to look at some of the new TV series premieres. Our From the Outside In topic this week is what movie villain should have won. That'll be interesting when we get there. And the latest in movie and TV news, as always, our own trivia and flashback DVD segments, including this week's contest winner. My name is Aaron Peterson, and with me today are my fellow host, Scott Clark.
Howdy-ho, neighbor.
Wow. Justin McCumber.
Hey, Aaron. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. And Brian Williams.
What's up, ladies?
What's going on? Why hi-ho neighbor, of all things? You're just trying to think of something from Home Improvement?
Look, I'm not witty, so it's my only chance to do something funny.
Well, you don't disprove that by that. We got a lot of show to cover, so let's just jump right into movie news. First things first. Tom Cruise, his new sci-fi pick, All You Need Is Kill, will land March 12, 2014. It's directed by Doug Liman, and the film is described as a cross between Source Code and Aliens. It's about an alien race has invaded the Earth, and Cruise's character is killed at the very beginning of the movie, only to be stuck in a time loop where he relives the day, Groundhog Day style, fighting to stay alive.
I kept waiting to see if you were actually going to try and pronounce the name of the Japanese author who wrote the book that this movie's based on. I was waiting to see how you were going to pronounce it.
Hell no. I'm not even going to try.
Sakurazaka.
So what?
Sakurazaka.
Oh, it's close to what I was going to say. Yep.
Yeah. First off, the title fucking sucks. I don't care if that's the name of the title that the Japanese gave it. I don't know if it's meant to be cute or if it's just a screwed up translation. But All You Need Is Kill, from the outside looking in, and of course we are the outsiders, so that's all we can do. It's a shitty title, and it immediately turns me off to it. The story sounds interesting, but like you said, it sounds a lot like Source Code. It sounds a lot like Groundhog Day. The story from the novel, which of course they've changed from being in Japan over to America, is that this Lieutenant Colonel character keeps waking up in the same day, getting to relive it, and of course learning new things, improving his abilities or whatever throughout the reliving of that day. It's sci-fi, it's Tom Cruise, it should be right in my wheelhouse, and yet I am oddly uninterested. I don't know if it's purely the title or if it's just the fact that it's borrowing so heavily from a premise that I not too recently saw another movie of.
I'm really shocked that you aren't into this.
I am too, a little bit.
It just seems like it's almost like Tom Cruise took it because he knew Justin McCumber would want to see it. You know?
You'd think, but I hate the title, and I hate that the premise is so close. Again, just from this brief synopsis, so close to the Groundhog Day and Source Code, sort of relooping of events, relooping and learning, and it's been done. Now, granted, this is about aliens who have invaded and they're mimics, or that's what they're called. I don't know if that means they look like us or exactly what that's supposed to imply. So there's all sorts of room for this to get better. I leave room for my opinion to change, but at this moment, between the title and the premise itself, I'm not hopeful, but you know me, I'm always ready to love on it if the right thing comes along.
What if Bill Murray shows up?
Oh shit, yeah.
I'll walk out.
Yeah. Could he be the zombie one from
Zombieland?
Yeah.
Will the idea of Tom Cruise running away from aliens spark any more interest in you? Because he's really good at running away.
Yes. He's running.
All right.
I mean, what it does have going for it in my book anyway is the director made the Bourne trilogy movies and Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which is kind of one of my personal faves. The basic plot sounds kind of hokey, but yeah, I'm kind of reserving judgment till I see something a little bit more about it. And I like sci-fi. Tom Cruise, I agree with you. That combination alone should be right up, should just about make it an automatic love. But I am oddly cautious about the Groundhog Day aspect of it. Okay,
well, what about Andrew Garfield and director Mark Webb, who apparently were not locked in before? I don't know how Marvel let that happen, but they are officially locked in now for Amazing Spider-Man 2, and Emma Stone is still in talks. She hasn't committed yet.
Yeah, I mean, looks like they're going to be starting early next year, shooting, filming, and should I think at May 2nd of 2014. is the target date to be released.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they'll get something worked out with Emma Stone. I mean, it's just probably how many commas are going to be in her. Well, I guess what's the number past the second comma going to be in her paycheck? So it's I think it's they've got a pretty good combination going, and I think it's a good idea just to kind of keep the story moving. I'm kind of curious to see where they're going to go with it at this point.
No, I agree with you though, Aaron. It is odd that because usually the standard deal seems to be in these sorts of movies that you always lock in your stars for a trilogy, whether or not you do 3. Is up to the stars, and when I say the stars, I don't mean the actors, but the heavens, and the fates. But usually they're locked in well ahead of time, just in case it's a breakout success. So for these people to have not been locked in before the first one even got started is a little surprising.
Yeah, usually it's 3-picture deals.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to be in a series like this, you're going to have a 3-picture deal because they want to make sure that they can make 3 Spider-Man movies regardless.
I really hope that Emma Stone does reprise that role because I find it really distracting. Like the Batman, when they switched Katie Holmes out with Maggie Gyllenhaal, that was like the one thing that distracted me about that series. So I really hope that she stays in the role because
I wanted Katie Holmes to stay because she's so much better looking than Maggie Gyllenhaal.
You are crazy.
I'm just saying. How is that not true? How is Maggie Gyllenhaal more attractive than Katie Holmes?
There's another topic for another time. Suffice to say, I don't agree with you.
I don't need you to agree with me. I'm still right.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Kevin Costner is on the comeback trail as now he will team with director MCG or Mick G. I don't know how the hell you say that.
Mick G. God, man.
I don't want to call it Mick G because it sounds like I'm ordering at McDonald's. And action producer Luc Besson, who did Taken and the Transporter flicks, for 3 Days to Kill as a dying Secret Service agent who tries an experimental drug as his one last job before retirement.
And I read this article. Actually, I got a little bit different synopsis on how this is going. If I'm reading this right, the drug isn't the mission. He's actually offered that drug if he takes one last mission.
Oh, okay.
And the drug is what's supposed to save his life. That to me makes it a little bit more interesting because when I first read that, I thought it was like, old guy's gonna die, might as well have some opium or something. That's how I read it originally. But I think it's an interesting concept. I'm just not as big a fan of Kevin Costner anymore. Although Mr. Brooks was surprisingly good from a few years ago, I did like that. But I just haven't been interested in seeing him in a whole lot lately. Although I forgot to tell you guys, my wife was at LAX over the weekend and she actually saw Kevin Costner in the airport.
Really?
Yeah.
Was he begging for change or
no?
Damn, dude! Don't be hating.
He was really good in the Hatfield and McCoys, but anybody see his Emmy speech where he just jumbled words for about 3 minutes, made no sense whatsoever?
He might have been drunk. Go easy.
Might have been. I'm pretty sure he was liquidated. I like Kevin Costner. I'd like to see him back in something cool. Get back a little bit of his lost luster, but I think he's kind of resigned.
What did you like that he was so cool in? I'm not saying
Bodyguard, Dances with Wolves,
For love of the game, Fandango,
The Untouchables.
Waterworld,
absolutely.
No, not Waterworld. No,
The Postman, motherfucker.
I liked Waterworld. That movie gets a lot of crap, and I thought it was fun.
not Waterworld. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. I thought that was pretty good.
Okay,
Yep.
That was terrible.
You didn't like that?
It was awful.
Oh, everything he did it for her.
Okay, Bryan Adams.
Writer David Goyer says that they will be going for the same realistic tone for Man of Steel as he and Nolan did for The Dark Knight.
I'm interested to see exactly how they're going to handle this, because at least with the Batman movies, they brought in some of the characters who could have been their more fantastical comic booky selves, like the League of Shadows and Ra's al Ghul, which in the comic books has got a lot of mysticism and supernatural aspects to them. They almost completely avoided that in the movies, and so they were able to make a movie that, you know, aside from some technology, could have taken place in a real world. There is no real world in which a man can fly. And so to create a film in which a Superman could exist is going to be a little more difficult. But if they're going to do it and really show what... And this is something that none of the Superman films has done, is show what does Superman, how does he impact the world? You know, what do people think when you now, if you were to walk outside tomorrow and suddenly you saw a man fly, the world would change at that moment. And what does that mean? I would like to see if this movie kind of talks to that, you know, brings some of that in. The trailer for it, the little teaser, is fantastic. David Goyer really has done phenomenal work. I can't wait to see it. I really cannot wait to see this.
The realistic tone concerns me because I just don't think it applies to Superman. I don't think a realistic world... I get what you're saying, Justin, that, okay, well, the whole world will be taken aback, but they're taking some changes with the character, or they're taking some... The screenshots I've seen of the character just don't look like my Superman. I mean, he's looking disheveled in several of the shots. I mean, he's got a full beard and, he's got chest hair. He hasn't waxed his chest yet or whatever. It looks like they're trying to create this, guy trying to find his way and where's my place in the world kind of thing. It just doesn't seem like the Superman from the comics. Now, granted, I think they're trying to reinvent him for today's generation, so they're making him a little more relatable, I guess. And he's probably the hardest character to make relatable. But I'm not convinced that's the right tone for him. I mean, obviously, we'll wait and see when the movie comes out.
But what did you think about the tone when they switched to Batman Begins? I mean,
that works for Batman. Batman is a normal person who has means to be a superhero. Mm-hmm. He creates the opportunity. He wasn't born to be the mightiest person on the entire planet. I mean, basically, Superman. There's nothing in the world that can defeat him except a green rock that you have to search high and low to find. Everything else,
that's not true. Well,
essentially, I'm summing it up into basics. Where Batman, if you catch him with some cheap armor, you could shoot him in the ribs and he's done. You know what I mean? It's very different. I think it's more suited to a realistic world, and it made sense. I don't know if it makes sense here. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
And you know me, even with any of the comic book stuff, I'm more grounded in reality. But like you said, with a guy that flies and shoots lasers out of his eyes for no earthly explainable reason, it's hard to bring realistic. So
we'll see.
We'll see what happens. Now let's take a little trip down to Brian's trailer park.
Welcome to Brian's Trailer Park. It appears that we are getting a couple of Jurassic Park spinoffs here pretty soon.
What?
Yeah. First, Justin knows where I'm going here. First is Schwarzenegger's The Last Stand. And now it's his Red Sonja banging partner Stallone has got his own new action movie coming to theaters February 1st of 2013.
Wow.
You see what I did there?
I saw what you did there. Yeah.
All right. It's called Bullet to the Head, and also stars that Asian guy from the Fast and Furious movies and the badass horse clan leader from Game of Thrones.
Jason Momoa.
He also played Conan in the latest Conan version. So the plot's simple. I know, shocker. Cop and hitman join forces to bring down the mutual enemy who murdered each of their respective partners. I know he's a busy guy, but I wish we were able to get Sly in here for to comment on it. But you never know. Maybe we can. If we can make a phone call or two, maybe we can get him in here a little bit closer to the release date.
Yeah, we don't want to bury that into the ground too much.
Overstay his welcome.
Yeah, you might overstay his welcome more than he already has.
So this trailer looks fantastic.
Couldn't agree more.
Oh my god! I watched it going, oh god, this is going to be terrible, and I finished it and rewatched it again. Mm-hmm. It looks so good, and why is it that Sylvester Stallone at his age can still look appropriate and right on in an action film? But Arnold Schwarzenegger comes in and he looks like my grandpa coming in to do an action film. I don't know if what's going on, what serum Stallone is taking. Well, they both took it.
Yeah.
But Stallone looks fantastic.
Yeah, but Stallone's still taking it. I mean, that's
Jason
kind of the difference.
Momoa looks ruthless and the whole thing looks fantastic. I cannot wait to see this.
You know what I like most about the trailer is that Brian and I we both saw it when we went and saw Expendables 2. This trailer, the original trailer was before the Expendables 2. I didn't like. I just thought it was kind of bland. That's why we never talked about it. But the international trailer, I don't know what they did, but they recut the movie so they made it a lot more interesting. This trailer looks cool. And the original trailer barely had Jason Momoa in it at all.
Mm-hmm.
International trailers rock.
What's that?
International trailers are almost always better.
Maybe. This one looks good. Scott, what were you going to say?
I'm going to get a lot of crap for this, but this looks to me more fun than Expendables. Granted, I haven't seen Expendables, but I mean...
you guys fucking might.
The trailer...
You're a little crazy here,
Stallone, are you here?
He's doing what I just do, He's fucking stupid.
The trailer for this versus the trailer for Expendables, I want to see this more than I want to see Expendables. I've been wanting to see Khal Drogo in a movie ever since Game of Thrones. a freaking axe fight. Why is that? I have never seen that in a movie. That looks
That was great.
that looks awesome.
All right, from the director of Horrible Bosses comes another Jason Bateman comedy where he's the victim of the appropriately titled identity theft. I hate to go back to the same joke, but you see what I did there? I kind of worked it into the spiel, identity theft, name of the movie. Okay,
I think it's Identity Thief, but you can do whatever you got to do.
Whatever. I'll call it whatever the hell I want to. How's that?
He's like, it's my segment, bitch.
It is his trailer park.
That is. It's called Titanic 4. And basically, that's what's happened to Bateman. He gets his identity stolen. You know who steals it? Melissa McCarthy. She plays the unsuspicious caricature of a tacky Florida woman living off of other people's money, much like a welfare abusers out there, except she's stealing from people and not from the government. While the movie looks like another Jason Bateman comedy, I'm kind of excited about this because of the unique role for McCarthy. Mm-hmm. I think it's kind of an interesting character and kind of an odd role that you don't really see a woman play very often, if at all.
What, a throat puncher?
See,
She punches a lot of throat.
She does. There's a lot of throat punching going on.
I felt completely opposite because I actually like Jason Bateman in his comedies and stuff, and I really liked the portions of there with him. And then when she came in, I just felt like it was trying too hard. And
he's funny, but they're all the same.
Yeah,
he's Jason Bateman.
He's Jason Bateman in every movie. I totally disagree with you, man. I thought she's when it got interesting.
Really?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Different take. It's a different kind of comedy. I really like that. When he stops her and he's holding, asking her for identification, and it's the exact same identification. She's like, "Oh shit!" and then punches him in the throat. I think that's awesome.
All right. Well, Identity Thief opens February 8th, 2013.
The Lone Ranger trailer came out today, and basically what the movie's about is Native American spirit warrior Tonto. Apparently, Tonto's played by Johnny Depp, is recounting the untold tales of that transformed John Reed, a man of the law, into the legend of justice. That's just for the synopsis. Who's played by Armie Hammer. Arnie Hammer. Is it Army or Arnie? It's Army.
I keep saying Army, but it may be Arnie.
No, it's Army.
No, it's Army.
Armie Hammer.
Okay.
Johnny Depp is the lead in this movie, and he plays Tonto. The movie's called Lone Ranger. You'd think he'd play Lone Ranger, but apparently he thought he'd have more fun with wearing crazy-ass makeup and offending every Native American he's ever come in contact with.
You know there's going to be some major uproar over this.
Honestly, I like the trailer. I like where they're going with it. And it's up on the website, so, Brian will go over the website stuff in a second. And all I could think of was watching this is that Johnny Depp is going to offend an entire nationality because he looks like he's making fun of Native Americans. I mean, granted, I think the movie looks good, and it looks like they're taking a more serious approach than I thought they were going to be. It's not as goofy as Pirates is, but I got real concern about that. I mean, I think Johnny Depp took a real chance with doing the character this way.
I got to tell you, I could not disagree more.
Well, there's a shock.
Yeah, granted, we almost always disagree, but if he had, strutted around the screen with your prototypical woo 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 and that kind of shit, or just a couple of feathers stuck in his hair and some brown makeup on his face, that would have been offensive. But the war paint that he wore and the crow on his head, to me, and his serious delivery of dialogue, and from what little action we got to see, because it was cut pretty fast, and you don't get really any sustained takes of anything. To me, it looked like one of those, like he was genuinely trying to give a good portrayal, a respectful portrayal. I thought he looked fantastic. I was ready for camp. This trailer, I went into it when you texted it to us earlier today. I was in my truck in the Best Buy parking lot, as I usually am. And I pulled it up on my phone, and I'm like, oh, shit, this is going to be a goddamn train wreck, pardon the pun, because there's lots of trains in it, and they did wreck. And I'm watching it, I'm like, this looks good. This is looking pretty good. And by the end of it, I thought, this looks so much better than I ever would have thought it would look. I like Gore Verbinski. He's never really let me down. Mm-hmm. But I was really primed for a train wreck, especially with Johnny Depp. He shocked me. The movie shocked me. It looked good.
Here's what threw me off in the trailer, and I know it won't probably be in the movie itself, but the music just made it was like trying to modernize the Lone Ranger, and that just did not work for me for some reason.
They need to do that, to be honest with you.
Did it sound like video game music, Scott?
Jesus Christ.
No.
Edit.
Why didn't it work for you? I mean, they're trying to make it a modern take on the old legend.
Yeah, but it's still set in. It's still a period piece. I mean, it's not. It's not.
It's not a
a
historical
Knight's Tale. They're not going
piece.
to play like whoop, there it is.
That would
This ain't a Knight's Tale.
that would be fantastic.
I mean, that's not going to be in
Cowboys
the.
versus Indians in a dance-off.
Wow. Okay, well, The Lone Ranger comes out July 3rd, 2013.
All right, now here's some stuff for you to remember. Number 1, buy your damn I'm a Ho t-shirts at thehollywoodoutsiders.com. Number 2, go to podcastawards.com and nominate us under the People's Choice and the movies/film categories. You can only nominate once, so get it right. On Twitter at H_outsider. Number 4, go to facebook.com/Hollywood Outsider. Just the Hollywood Outsider. Facebook.com/the Hollywood Outsider. And hit the like button. And finally, email us your crazy ass thoughts and questions at feedback@thehollywoodoutsiders.com.
Somebody's feisty tonight.
Stump the Hoe.
All right, Stump the Hoe. Each week, one of our hosts poses a trivia question to the remaining hosts in an attempt to stump their fellow hoes. Hoes meaning Hollywood outsiders. This week, it's my turn. So, in my question, you guys ready? All right.
Ready.
All right.
Ready.
In Looper, it's going to be in reference to Looper, which Brian and Justin apparently went back in time and didn't see. In
We went back in time and stopped ourselves from going.
Yes. Don't do it! In Looper, Bruce Willis bounces around in time and encounters his former self. But this is actually the third time Willis has done this. Another film was obviously 12 Monkeys. So what was the third film this occurs in? Was it A, The Fifth Element, B, The Story of Us, C, The Kid, or D, The Surrogates? Or just Surrogates. It's not actually The Surrogates.
Let's
Surrogates.
see, The Kid.
Okay, Scott says C, The Kid. Brian?
Oh. I'll go with The Fifth Element.
Okay. And Justin?
I'll go with B, The Story of Us.
Okay. We'll find out the answer a little later in the show. Now let's go to the big screen and review any new releases. We've got 3 this week, and the first one is Looper. Normally I would be asking Justin to tell us about Looper, but he didn't see it. So
You're just not going to let that die, are you?
sure not.
Sorry, dude. I got a book to edit.
I know.
Aaron, meet dead horse. Beat that shit. Go ahead.
Here's what Looper's about. In 2072, time travel has been invented, but it's been outlawed. The mob has basically found a way to utilize time travel as a means of cleanly disposing of bodies by sending them back to 2042, where a looper, which is basically a guy that sits at this one particular spot and waits to kill and dispose of whoever the mob sends back. Now, when I first heard of this plot, I'm like, well, this is stupid. Why would you have to send them all the way back? But I guess in the future, it's very, very hard to dispose of a body cleanly because there's tracking and everything else. People are encoded. So they send them back in the future, back to the past, so they can get rid of them. Okay. When a looper comes face to face with his older self, this means the mob is closing the loop. And basically what they'll do is they'll give Looper 30 years worth of gold in exchange for him killing himself. And he knows he has 30 years to live. Make sense? Mm-hmm. Kind of? Gives me a headache. Joseph Gordon-Levitt plays Joe. He's a looper in 2042. Joe comes face to face with his older self, played by Bruce Willis. But he misses his chance to close his loop, and the entire mob is now his enemy. So everything after this would be a huge spoiler, so we're not going to spoil the movie. But Joe does run into himself quite a bit as he tries to piece together why his elder self isn't ready to die, as well as he runs into Emily Blunt, who plays a troubled woman who crosses both the Joe's paths. Honestly, story first, what did you think of the story? I mean, I explained kind of what it's about. Scott and I both saw it. So,
well, the story is what really intrigued me about it. I love time travel concepts anyway, even though they're kind of broken as far as paradoxes go and that kind of thing. But the concept is the reason I wanted to go see it. I was really into it, and I was pleasantly surprised that it didn't go the exact route that we were meant to think it was going in the trailer. It really took a completely different direction, and I mean that in a good way. What about you? Did you feel the same way? Or?
I'll be honest, and I told you this. Well, I've told everybody this. It's honestly one of the most interesting and original films I've seen in years. Mm-hmm. And Scott asked me if I felt it was more original than Inception, which I do, because I think Inception borrowed a lot of stuff from Matrix. I thought this was, or from other sci-fi films, I didn't think it was as original as everybody else thought. Great movie. Mm-hmm. I just didn't think all the pieces were as original as people thought they were. I thought this was extremely original. I loved the fact that it's one of the few movies the trailer did not tell me much about the movie at all. Mm-hmm. You get the basic concept, but there is so much more. The second half of this movie isn't even in the trailer.
Right.
You honestly don't know. There's some that you'll probably figure out midway, but a lot of it I didn't see that. All right.
Yeah. Kind of like we did with Cabin in the Woods. Like when they shot like the first 5 minutes of that movie.
You only got some aspect of it, but you don't get the whole gist of it.
Right.
This is a very original story. And the thing I like most about it is I think we've given enough of the story away, but I'll tell you, it's not one of those things where you want to go back just so you can see the little things that led to the ending. It's more that it's an original story that just did a great job of hiding the better secrets. And now that I've seen the whole thing, I kind of want to go back and see it all over. Mm-hmm. Not to pick up pieces I missed, but just because I enjoyed it all the way through, mm-hmm. if that makes sense. What did you think of the acting?
I enjoyed... Well, Bruce Willis is kind of still Bruce Willis. I mean, he's kind of been playing the same role for quite a while. I've always been a big fan of Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and he actually brought it with this role. He really, not only because of the makeup and that kind of thing, looking like Bruce Willis, but he really acted like a young Bruce Willis. The mannerisms,
yeah, he got the tics down, and
the facial tics. I was really impressed with him. He's really come a long way from Third Rock from the Sun.
Yeah, the makeup was really distracting. At times, it was kind of okay. We get it, dude. Seriously, please stop with the makeup.
Yeah.
But you're right. He had so many, and as somebody that grew up with Bruce Willis, I love Moonlighting. I love Die Hard. I love Bruce Willis until he stopped being an actor and just started being Bruce Willis. Mm-hmm. So I'm extremely familiar with all his mannerisms and tics, and it was kind of. At first, I thought it was going to be distracting to see him mimic him, but he doesn't do it in your face, so to speak. I mean, he does the very subtle ones, and he does it really well. He does a really strong impression as well as a performance. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't say that he's trying to do an impression of Bruce Willis. He's just trying to be Bruce Willis as a younger man.
Right.
And I thought he did a really good job.
I think I was worried about being distracted by the face prosthetics as well, but I felt that if I didn't know what Joseph Gordon-Levitt looked like already, mm-hmm. and it wouldn't have been an issue. I mean, obviously he's a pretty famous actor. We've seen him in a lot of things, but we talked about this before when we said he should just be a character and we should allow it to not look that same. But I was amazed at how much he looked like Bruce Willis. The jawline, the mouth, the eyes. I mean, it was incredible, mm-hmm. and I was distracted by it at first, but within the first 10, 15 minutes. I was just sold on the idea, and it became less of a distraction for me.
I'll be honest. My favorite performance in the movie was Emily Blunt.
Yeah.
We're not going to go into because anything after a certain point becomes spoiler territory. But she did a great job as a strong, full character, and her arc was just. I mean, it's integral to the story, but also just the way that she played her role was phenomenal. And Jeff Daniels,
awesome
as a villain. Which was a nice change of pace because you never see him like that. I mean, Dumb and Dumber and Newsroom, he's all over the place, but he's usually the nice guy. And to see him as kind of a sadistic jackass was nice, and he does it well.
He really did.
He should do more villains. He really
I agree.
should.
I'd like to see him more.
Production-wise, it didn't really do much for me. I think some people think this should be one of those big production movies where the special effects are phenomenal and the design is amazing. It's really kind of by the book. There's nothing that really stood out like, ooh, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, this isn't just like a cheap sci-fi action flick kind of thing. There's a lot more going on with it, and mm-hmm. I think that the tone that the production brought to it really added to that. I mean, whenever we talk about in the future, we always think, flying cars and all these weird like Coruscant style things, but it just looks like in the near future, not like in the mm-hmm. 2300. You see a couple flying vehicles, that kind of thing, but it looks just a little bit further ahead, and I think that spoke to it, because there wasn't as much distraction of all the bells and whistles of a super futuristic environment.
Califragilistic expialidocious. it's just it was by the numbers. I wasn't impressed with that at all. I thought the direction was really good because he kept it focused on the characters. It's very much a character story. It is not a sci-fi, look at the bells and whistles, flying cars, and all that. It's even though time travel is involved, very little futuristic elements. Really, really, sincerely.
And it's really nice that they don't throw it in your face so much about how the time travel kind of thing works.
Yes, and they made it understandable.
Right. You don't, but they do it without bringing out the chalkboard like Doc Brown style and having the lines and this is what happens. Yeah. The director realizes that the audience has seen time travel movies before. They know how it works. They know the in and outs of it. So you don't have to have things spoon fed to you. And when it is fed to you, it's fed to you through the character development itself. And I think that's brilliant in the way they do that.
Honestly, I think Bruce Willis, even at one point, didn't he say, he kind of alluded to that, I could try to explain all this time travel stuff, but it's just going to confuse the hell out of you, so let's just move forward. Which, that was a great answer, because I don't need it again. If you've seen any time travel movie, you get it. Right. It's confusing, it's going to cause a lot of problems. They hit the basics, it's all good. So what did you think overall? What was your verdict?
I thought it was a pleasant surprise, because usually when I go into a movie super hyped, I wind up being disappointed. Rarely do I go into a movie wanting to see it so bad, and it actually exceeds my expectations. I knew I was going to like the movie from the very little that I had read. I tried to stay spoiler-free a little bit, but I was surprised how much of a character movie this was. The characters are very complex and very emotional, and not in a cheap, sappy way. It's very... You really feel the emotions that each of the characters are bringing to the table. The twists were very nice. It had some very original ideas. I can't recommend it enough. If the price of admission were $10, I would give it an $8 out of 10.
Okay, I thought, like I said, one of the most original and surprising films I've seen in a long time. I was involved the entire way through. Most movies do not keep me that interested. I couldn't wait to see it play out, and now that I know how it plays out, I want to see it again. So, and the sad part is I went in thinking I wasn't going to like it, so maybe that helped, because the trailer was kind of bland, and we talked about this in the show. It didn't look as exciting as it ended up being. And I was so sure that I knew exactly what the movie was going to be, and I was completely wrong. The movie was completely different than I thought it was going to be. I give it a 9 out of 10. It's honestly, it was a great time. So, 9 out of 10. And Scott, you went and saw Pitch Perfect. Yes, you did.
I did.
What'd you think?
It was my pick of releases for last week, and obviously I'm really excited to see it since I'm a big fan of music and Anna Kendrick. Go ahead and make fun of me all you want. But Anna Kendrick plays Becca, a freshman at Barden University who has a passion to produce music. She's at college by her father's wishes, who wants her to at least give it a try before following her dream of moving to L.A. Their compromise is Anna's got to try to at least do 1 year in which she joins at least one social group. Against her better judgment, she joins the Barden Bellas, which is an all-female a cappella singing group who compete for bragging rights and a trophy. The Bellas, who suffer from a horrible, disgusting embarrassment at last year's competition, haven't changed their routine in years. Becca hopes to incorporate her skills as a DJ to give the Bellas a fresh jolt in order to get them noticed and winning trophies. Now, we all saw the trailer. We saw it from last week or the couple weeks before. It's pretty much what you expect. The ideas are derivative of anything from Glee to Dodgeball. No joke. They've got the announcers a la Dodgeball, and it's hilarious. A cappella singing group, check. Ragtag group of weirdos who can't fit in the rest of school, check. Guy who wants a girl has to win her heart after she treats him like a jerk, check. Nothing, no really any new ideas here. But with that said...
You're selling me, man. You're selling me.
With all that said, I love this film. I've seen a lot of movies in the past months, a lot more than I did before we were doing a podcast, and this is the first time that I can remember in a long time where I kept myself from looking forward to it being over. It was 2 hours long, and I wanted more.
Really?
For real. And I mean, 2 hours is... A lot of movies are under the 145 mark.
Yeah, to keep Scott Clark's attention? That's amazing.
That does seem kind of long, though, for that type of movie.
That's what I mean.
Hour 45 tops, kind of seems the length for the running time for one of those movies.
Yeah, but I seriously wanted more. I mean, they kept the best performances to the very end, obviously, but I wanted to see more, and I was kind of hoping through the credits that there might be some more performances and that kind of thing, and there wasn't. I was kind of bummed, but Obviously, I said I'm a big fan of Anna Kendrick, not just because she's cute, although she is adorable, but I'm used to seeing her as a sweetheart in some of the movies, or kind of a little shyer. She pulled off the standoffish wannabe badass in this a little bit, believe it or not. Rebel Wilson, who was expectedly funny, but
was she hysterical?
She was, and what was good was that she was not just the center of the comedy. It wasn't like too much of her. There was a bunch of other weirdo characters in the group that each were weird and quirky. I mean, she was the most funny, but it wasn't the Rebel Wilson show, if that makes sense. And
that's good. And
the one-liners were laugh out loud funny. What I did like about this, it's hard to bring this up without talking about Glee. Right. What Glee does with its music.
Glee, every episode, Glee. Fuck, I'm tired of hearing about it. Sorry, I was channeling Brian.
Thank you, Cartman.
What Glee does is it has the students randomly singing in hallways or in classrooms or in the bathroom, whatever, which doesn't make any sense. Whereas in Pitch Perfect, all of the singing is either done on stage or in practice rooms or in sing-offs that they do for fun, that kind of thing. So it makes a little bit more sense. Plus, the lip-syncing isn't off. If you watch Glee, it looks like they're lip-syncing, and you can tell that they have a bigger budget in this, that it works a lot better. And speaking of the musical performances, they are really fantastic. They are very ear-pleasing. The choreography that they do is fun.
Is it the actual actors that are singing?
It is. Like Anna Kendrick and Rebel Wilson actually can sing pretty well, and then some other lesser-known actors that you probably have never heard of, but they do an inclusion of mashups, which I've never seen in a cappella before, and that worked very well. So songs that don't have any sense being together really worked. Last thing I'll say is, and again, I mentioned Expendables before. Granted, I haven't seen that movie. This is, to me, what Expendables was to you guys. Again,
really?
I haven't seen it. This is a sit back and have a good time movie that I just enjoyed and soaked up every minute of it. I laughed out loud on more than one occasion. Love the music. I even like the cheesy performances. It won't win any Oscars for acting, but it easily gets a $9 out of 10 out of from me. My only issues with it is that they went a little bit over the top with some unnecessary gross out humor that they did twice. Which the one was a bit much, but they took it just too far, and it really wasn't necessary. Otherwise, I can't recommend it enough.
Okay, and now Hotel Transylvania, and in honor of the fact that it's Halloween time. And it's a movie about Dracula, we thought we'd have a guest.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on and allowing me the time out of my crypt to tell you how I feel about my new biography, Hotel Transylvania. In recent years, my story has been represented by gay crime vampires. We do not cry. And we do not shimmer in the light. That is just silly. We are scary and dangerous and evil. Except in this cute little Adam Sandler movie about me. This movie is about my Hotel Transylvania. I built this hotel so the monsters of the world would have somewhere to go and get away from dirty boys and girls like Kristen Stewart. I also am a widow with a daughter, Mavis. Do not ask me how a dead man can procreate. I am not a biology teacher, although I ate one once. Well, this is a stupid human. He wanders into my hotel. My hotel! I have to disguise his grotesque features so the other monsters will not fear him or eat him. Since monsters, we have come to be terrified of you humans and our sick fetishes, such as reality television. Well, Johnny and Mavis, they start to hit it off, and I have to decide if I should let my baby girl grow up and leave my vastly muscular arms. Aaron will tell you if this film is worth anything. I just wanted you to know my life story is not available in animated form, and I searched high and low for an actor of Adam Sandler's level of professionalism to bring my life to, life. Thank you again for having me. I really appreciate it. I love your show. And seriously, please stop watching Twilight. We never stare that long at anyone.
And that is our official moratorium on voices for a little while. But
that wasn't Dracula?
No. Yes, it was. It was the Mario Dracula.
It's me, Dracula.
Boop, 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 boop. And the irony of it is as much as you hate video game talk, you do a video game voice.
Pretty well. I can do Mario pretty well. Not as good as Dracula. Or not Dracula. Never mind. Fuck it. So, but the bottom line is, that describes the plot. And please, if you want to know more about the plot, go re-listen to that shit, because I don't feel like explaining it again. The movie's very cute. It is a kid's movie completely and thoroughly. I gave this movie some flack a couple weeks ago, and I admit I was wrong. It was actually a lot better than I thought it was going to be. It's pretty good, and if you have kids, it's probably a perfect fit for the family. The animation is top notch. The voices all work, surprisingly. Adam Sandler and it's his usual cavalcade of guys that show up for his regular movies showed up for the animation. I mean, you got
really?
Kevin James, Steve Buscemi. You got a bunch of them that show up. Which is really funny hearing Steve Buscemi play the werewolf after he's been in Boardwalk Empire, and it's just it's weird seeing him go back to Goofy. But there's not much bad to say other than it gets a little cheesy at times, but a kids movie should. And the audience was full of kids, which makes me sound a little creepy. And they were having a great time. They all loved it. I really liked a lot of the different takes they had on monsters and how the monster side of the world. It's almost like they felt like they were playing the racism card, which actually kind of made it kind of interesting. Like they thought humans had segregated them, so they just wanted to avoid them because they all hate them anyway, and humans hate them anyway, so they just rather stay away from them. It was an interesting take on it.
This sounds like Monsters, Inc. a little bit.
It was a little bit. It was just taken with Halloween monsters as opposed to just general monsters. So I had fun. The kids in the audience loved it. I give it a 6.5 out of 10. And Katie on Twitter, she also let us know that she liked it. Had some funny moments, but over the top most of the time. Felt a little longer than it was, but it was definitely for the kids. Fun and dumb. That's what she said. So, cool. Yep. And like I said, no more voices for a while. So you're good. Or no more guests, I should say. No more guests. Hotel Transylvania opened with the largest September debut ever. $42 million. You crazy kids.
Wow.
Yep. Looper opened to $20.8 million, which is a lot more than people thought. Pretty solid numbers. There was some scuttle that the China numbers were actually what?
Scuttle, you're still fucking saying it.
What am I supposed to say?
It's scuttlebutt. Scuttle is what you do to a ship when you want to sink it. Scuttlebutt is rumor and talk.
Well, this fits more in scuttle because it's wrong. But there's a lot of talk. We'll just go with talk. That's easy.
Okay.
That's fair.
That the movie made $22 to $24 million in China, which is actually posted on the website. Not true. Actually, they reported that number in yen. So it actually ends up being about $5 to $7 million in U.S. dollars. So anybody that keeps telling you that they made more in China, they'd be wrong. Pitch Perfect. This is the coolest thing that I saw. Even though I don't have any desire to see the movie, everybody seems to love it that did go see it. It landed with $5.1 million on only 335 screens. It's a very limited release. $5.1 million. Fantastic. The best per theater average in the top 10.
And that's so weird because they've been advertising that in weird places.
Well, because it comes out wide this week. I mean,
Right.
It was only supposed to kind of get people talking about it, and it did. It's getting people talking about it.
It's been advertised on Song Pop, of all places.
It is. The little iPhone game.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, if you like music, then. And this sad news, Won't Back Down opened with only $2.6 million on 2,500 theaters. That's an awful, awful opening. And that's probably because Maggie Gyllenhaal is not an attractive woman.
All right, guys, we've got 4 movies to talk about, all of them opening on October 12th. The first of these movies is Sinister. Now, this is a supernatural horror film directed by Scott Derrickson, who also directed The Exorcism of Emily Rose and not quite as good, The Day the Earth Stood Still. It was also written by him and somebody named C. Robert Cargill. The film follows true crime writer Ellison, played by Ethan Hawke, as he discovers a box of home movies that put his family in danger. The film employs a found footage along with traditional cinematography. Aaron, we have kind of a strange sort of history with this movie, so now that it's coming out, are you still interested in seeing it?
Yeah, we originally were supposed to host a screening, then we had an issue with the theater, so that was some exciting news we were going to have, and then we ended up not having it. But I still want to see the movie. I think it looks like a very clever and interesting horror movie. Reviews are great for it. Word of mouth has been great for it. So I won't let my bitterness discount me from seeing the movie. I think it looks like an interesting take. It seems very similar in vein to Insidious from last year, whereas it was a very small budget film that just took people by surprise, and I think it's going to be similar to that.
One of the creators of that is in on this movie, isn't it too?
Yep.
Between this and Paranormal Activity 4, I am ready for Halloween scary movies. And there usually isn't a whole lot that comes out during Halloween that gets me interested outside of Paranormal Activity. I'm really this one looks really good. It looks very creepy. Might be relying too much on the boo scares a couple times. But there's some genuine creepy stuff going on with scary little kids and that kind of thing, which we talked about was very creepy. So I'm all about it.
My only concern is I just hope they didn't kind of do like a lot of movies do and kind of blow their wad, so to speak, with showing you all the scary parts in the preview.
Yeah, I get that.
There and it's all basic, crappy, boring dialogue, except for the few parts that you saw in the commercial. But it's you know it's coming, so it loses something. So. That concerns me, but the trailer is definitely appealing, and I'm looking forward to it myself.
Yeah, it looks good. I'm not quite still sold on it, but of all the movies for the Halloween period, I think only this one and Paranormal Activity 4 are really of interest for me, but I think it looks pretty good. The next one we're going to talk about is Here Comes the Boom. This is a sports comedy directed by Frank Carrassi, who's brought us such wonders as Click and Zookeeper, and stars Kevin James. Former collegiate wrestler Scott Voss is a 42-year-old bored biology teacher at the failing Wilkinson High School. When budget cutbacks look like they might force the cancellation of the music program, which would result in its teacher, Marty, being laid off, Scott begins to raise the needed $48,000 by becoming a mixed martial arts fighter to keep the program around. On an interesting side note, I was just listening to another podcast, and they were talking about mixed martial arts and wrestling, and someone mentioned that Kevin James, many, many years ago, before he got all fat and bloated, was actually quite the wrestler and quite the powerful fighter. So it looks like maybe he dipped into a little bit of that to do this film. Scotty, are you ready for a little boom boom, or is this a little more like doom doom?
Wow.
First time
for that one, weren't you?
Yeah, had to reach down deep.
First couple times I saw this trailer, I thought it was trying too hard. Like, really, this seems like a silly idea. More I see it, I'm actually want to see this movie. I'm not expecting a great film, but it's a little bit different take on the teacher who will do anything for his students formula, and I think it looks fun.
Yeah, no. MMA and Kevin James don't go together. I'm sorry. Kevin James in a buffet, okay, but MMA is just not working for me. It looks kind of funny, but I will definitely wait for video.
I like that it has some serious moments in it too. You can like the character actually really cares about the students and is willing to do anything and everything. So
I really like Kevin James. I think he's a very funny guy. I really do. Mm-hmm. It's just the movie looks generic, just generic. So,
Brian, you have any thoughts? I couldn't agree more. Personally, I hate Kevin James. I can't stand the man. I think King of Queens was a bigger fantasy than Lord of the Rings ever could have been. He ain't marrying that hot wife. Ugh, I could not dislike this movie more. All right, moving on to something much, much better. Seven Psychopaths. This is a comedy written, co-produced, and directed by Martin McDonagh of In Bruges fame, and stars Colin Farrell, Sam Rockwell, Woody Harrelson, Christopher Walken, Tom Waits, Abby Cornish, and Olga Kurylenko. The film marks the second collaboration between McDonagh and Farrell following In Bruges. Marty, played by Colin Farrell, is a struggling writer who dreams of finishing his screenplay, Seven Psychopaths. Rockwell's character Billy is Marty's best friend and an unemployed actor and part-time dog thief, which I'm not quite sure what a dog thief is, but we'll see. Mm-hmm. He wants to help Marty by any means necessary. All he needs is a little focus and inspiration. Hans, played by Wilken, is Billy's partner in crime, a religious man with a violent past. Woody Harrelson's Charlie's a gangster whose beloved dog Billy and Hans have just been stolen. Charlie is unpredictable and extremely violent and wouldn't think twice about killing anyone or anything associated with the theft. Marty's going to get all this focus and inspiration he needs just as long as he lives to tell the tale. Brian, you seem like the sanest of all, so are you ready to descend into the craziness of Seven Psychopaths?
I am, but not at the theater. This is, to me, one of those movies, well, back in the day that you would try out at Blockbuster. You're wandering the shelves. You've seen all these new releases, all that stuff, and then you kind of stumble across those 2 or 3 copies of this movie that you see on the shelf, kind of crammed in between some others, and you pick it up and go, "Hey, I like 3 or 4 out of these 5, 6, 7, actors on here, so I'll give it a shot." And to me, this looks like that kind of a movie, kind of like an In Bruges or maybe Boondock Saints or something like that. And but this is not the type of movie that's probably going to pull $10 out of my wallet to sit in the theater for. Mm-hmm. But probably cable or Blu-ray, something like that. iTunes.
Same boat. My wife really wants to see it, so she can have a good time. I'm gonna see something else.
I'll take her. I think it looks genuinely hysterical.
Knock yourself out. Keep her.
It's a ridiculous concept, but it looks like they've made it work. I think it looks hilarious.
Like to what Brian said, it looks good. I just don't know if it looks $10, $20, $30 later good.
Right.
So
right.
I got to agree with Scotty. I think it looks hysterical. I love the trailer. Just love this trailer. And I liked In Bruges quite a bit. The ending left me not quite as happy as I would have liked, but in all, In Bruges was quite good. Seven Psychopaths looks even better. So I actually can't wait to see this one.
In Bruges was my kind of humor, like just a weird, quirky, dark humor.
Right.
I get that same vibe from this one.
Our last film we're going to discuss is Argo. This is a political thriller directed by Ben Affleck, based on the public account of CIA Technical Operations Officer Tony Mendez's rescue of 6 U.S. diplomats from Tehran, Iran, during the 1979 Iran hostage crisis. The film stars Affleck, Bryan Cranston, Alan Arkin, and John Goodman. In 1979, during the Iranian Revolution, militants take over the U.S. Embassy in Tehran and hold 52 Americans hostage. 6 other Americans escape and hide in the Canadian ambassador's home. The CIA and its specialist Tony Mendez, played by Affleck, put together a plan to help the 6 Americans escape Iran. I'll go first on this. I like Ben Affleck. I like him as an actor. I like him as a director. The topic of this, though, the subject matter, just does not interest me at all. I'm really uninterested in this one.
I'm extremely interested. Obviously, we've talked about this before. I love current and political event movies, hot topics, that sort of thing, historical. I like these kind of movies. I want to see it. I think Ben Affleck has more than proved himself. He's definitely established himself as a director to be followed. And I hope this is actually the movie that gets him some Oscar attention, because I think he, at this point, deserves it.
Didn't he get some with The Town?
He didn't get nominated for Best Director, no.
Or Babe Gone, Baby Gone?
Nope.
Huh.
He got the Best Screenplay for Good Will Hunting, but he didn't get nominated. The Town got nominated for Best Picture, I believe. Don't quote me on that. But Argo, reviews are fantastic. The reviews are great. I'm very interested to see it. I think this is going to be an Oscar contender and should be interesting.
I think it's an interesting concept. I'm not big on the idea anymore. I swear I've got that trailer memorized. No matter what movie I see that trailer. I've never been more sick of Aerosmith's Dream On. I think I'm going to wait for reviews before deciding whether or not to see it, because my interest is waning after seeing that trailer so many times.
I'm like Aaron. This is up my alley. I like some of the political stuff, espionage. The fact that this is based on a true story definitely kind of appeals to me. So I'm on board.
All right, well, we have these 4 films: Sinister, Here Comes the Boom, Seven Psychopaths, and Argo, all coming out October 12th. That weekend, unless I've got to write something, I'm going to be going to the theaters. Hope you guys are too. Of these 4 films, which ones are you guys most likely to see? Aaron?
I am saying Sinister.
Brian?
I'm going to go with Argo.
Scotty?
I'm going to go with Sinister as well. I'm shocked Aaron didn't pick Argo out of that one.
I want an original horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see something new.
I would say Sinister as well.
Really?
I really want I want a good horror film.
Me too.
So there we go. 3 against 1. Brian, you lose.
You are the weakest link.
You are the weakest link. Goodbye.
No, it's just I'm on this fucking podcast with 3 morons. That's all.
It's a heavy burden you bear, my friend.
Hey, man, it's the cross I choose to bear, so it's all good.
Cross up, cross down.
Cross up, cross down.
Jesus.
Listen to last week's podcast, and you'll understand that joke.
What's this movie?
What's this movie? Each week we play ours or a listener-suggested clip from a movie. If you think you know what the clip is, email us at feedback@thehollywoodoutsider.com or send us a direct message on Twitter at @H_outsider. And we will announce those that got it correct on the air, as well as we will draw a name from those that guessed correctly and send them an official Amaho Hollywood Outsider t-shirt. Last week's answer was Aaron. Well, actually, that was fucking stupid.
You're never the answer, Aaron.
This is what happens when you're Anchorman. Last week's answer was From Dusk Till Dawn, and it was my choice. I'm Aaron, by the way.
I'm Ron Burgundy.
Thank you, Ron Burgundy.
Those, and I'll leave that in because I hate myself. Those that got it correct: Sean M, Paul S, Dan M, Mr. NE on Twitter, Sue S, and Ashley S. And the winner is Mr. NE on Twitter.
Anyone.
Anyone.
Damn.
Mr. Anyone. Sorry. As in
You're gonna
mystery.
lose a listener.
Well, you know what? You shot the. Well,
No, Mr. Anyone.
Mr. Anyone.
you won the t-shirts. I will be in touch with you to find out where you live. This week, it's Brian's clip. So if you think you know what this clip is, email us at feedback@thehollywoodoutsider.com or get us on Twitter at H_outsider. Here you go. Those that guess correctly, we'll draw next week. Here's your clip.
I don't think we should.
Are you a Mexican or a Mexicant?
I'm a Mexican.
Good. Then do as I say.
Okay, now let's go to the couch, where we talk about TV and home video news. Family Guy and TED creator Seth MacFarlane was officially chosen to host the Oscars.
You had to capitalize H-O on that. Didn't
I sure
man.
did.
You're such a dork.
I just did a bad impression of Dragon. Yes, I'm a fucking dork.
Love you anyway, man. It's all good.
You guys think this is a bad idea?
No, I think it's a fantastic
Great.
idea.
Oh, I was going to say, holy cow.
I mean, I know Aaron doesn't generally like Seth MacFarlane. Maybe his brand of humor, personally, I'm not exactly sure what your beef is, but
When you're done, I'll tell you.
to host the Oscars, you've got to have about 4 different traits. You got to be somewhat visually appealing. You got to be funny, somewhat sarcastic, and be able to sing. And he can do all 4, and he can do a multitude of different voices. They need to have somebody besides Billy Crystal doing this. I'm sorry. You've got to, Anne Hathaway and Stoner Dude is not going to get it anymore. You've got to have somebody who's got a little bit of charisma, multi-talented, and so I think he's a good choice to try out. He may not be the best, the end-all be-all, but I think he's a good choice for a tryout.
The Oscars is about the only award show that I take seriously. Since I was a kid, I've watched the show, and it's always been supposedly a very respectful appreciation of the best in film. And granted, yes, this is going to seem too serious, but I don't care. That's how I see it. I don't like this. I think it sucks. I don't like MacFarlane. I don't think yes, I like some of the Family Guy stuff he does, and I've heard Ted's hysterical. His humor is juvenile humor. It's not. It's the lowest common denominator humor. It's not clever. It's a lot of just ridiculous and raunchy jokes, and that's fine. It works, and his audience loves him. And Family Guy has some funny bits. I just don't think it belongs in the Oscars. Now, granted, I've seen Seth MacFarlane himself, the guy, and he actually is a funny guy. He's a little weird because he seems like he's a mannequin half the time, but. I mean, he's a funny guy, and he obviously can do voices and whatnot, but I don't see what place any of that has at the Oscars. I think the only thing they're doing is completely selling out, trying to get a younger demographic to help pay for the ceremony. And that, to me, is a shame, because I personally have a deep respect for the ceremony. And you guys can mock me all you want, but I have a deep respect for this particular ceremony, and to me, it's mocking it.
I'm not mocking you at all. I would say that I think you're discrediting him a little bit, because the guy actually has some class in him, although he's got very irreverent humor and very, dick and fart joke humor on his TV show. But if you've ever get a chance, he hosted one of the celebrity roasts. I can't remember which one. Did you? Mm-hmm. I mean, he was the least irreverent out of everybody there, which isn't hard to do on that. But the way that he delivers,
he's still the easy joke guy. He goes for the easy joke every time.
Fair enough, but I think he has a level of class that will work. He's going to pull a couple jokes, yes, but I think his delivery. He's a great orator. You got to give him. that.
No, I don't have to give him that.
You don't think he can speak well?
Sure, he can speak well, but I think his humor is very juvenile. Don't get me wrong. I think the guy's funny. I just don't think he belongs in the Oscars.
I don't want to see the Oscars skewered. I just don't see the Oscars as some kind of a beyond reproach, kind of untouchable ceremony. I think that show actually suffers when there is way too much ostentation put into it. It's when you can actually lighten up a little bit that it gets interesting and can be entertaining. But when it's nothing but people with stiff outfits and stiff little speeches that they give, and everybody acts like they've all cured cancer and they're all here to get an award for it, that it gets old, it gets boring, it gets dull. And yes, I do think that there are far too many awards given to these people, given what they actually do.
Which is the appeal for the Golden Globes. It's more laid back. Everybody's sitting around half drunk by the midway through the show.
That's where Seth MacFarlane belongs.
I can see that.
Yeah, that's for.
And you have a lot of nostalgia wrapped up in this, and you have a lot of history, and I respect that. I've never really watched it much because my taste in movies, I always felt like my movies were disrespected by the Oscars.
Oh, I get that.
I felt like my Star Warses and my Star Treks and all those movies were completely blown off by these people. And so I was like, well, you want to say fuck you, Justin? Which they didn't, but they were kind of. Then fuck you too. If you don't want to award my movie, then why the hell should I care? Now we're kind of getting to where some of those movies are getting awarded, so I'm a little more interested. But still, I think it's entirely too precious.
I'm as reverential as the next guy, but if I'm going to sit there from anywhere from 3 to 5 hours, then you know what? Make it entertaining. And I don't know. To me, Seth MacFarlane is funny. Okay. He's entertaining.
And no, I don't want.
And I've seen him host other stuff like Saturday Night Live and other stuff. He's got more than just Family Guy jokes. So
we'll find out.
I welcome him.
Listener Andrew R. sent this in to us via Facebook about the Munsters remake, Mockingbird Lane, is going to stop at a pilot. Apparently, Deadline reported that the series is not looking like it will go forward. Are you guys surprised?
No, I'm not surprised. I'm a little saddened because I was interested in seeing Brian Fuller's take on this material. I've already waxed his balls several times on this show, so I'm not going to give Brian Fuller any more love than I already have. For me, my love kind of disappeared when they cast Jerry O'Connell. I have no idea where they were going with that, and that made me question it. I have a feeling that probably has something to do with a lot of people pulling away from this. Sad for Brian Fuller, but I'm not shocked.
I really couldn't care less.
Maybe they'll pull a MASH where they show the pilot, it ends up actually being a hit, and then they totally redo the cast.
Yeah, I'm sure that's how it's going to pan out.
The Munsters?
The Munsters. Well, hey, I would have saw it, but I'm kind of with Justin. As soon as I saw Jerry O'Connell, I was like, really? Okay. Let's just go do Sliders. I'd rather see that again than I would this. Let's go to Did You See That? We're going to talk about 4 of the most recent new TV series premieres. Brian, you start us off with Elementary.
Yeah, it's Johnny Lee Miller and Lucy Liu. It's, I don't know. To me, it was like basically every other procedural. Mm-hmm. It was almost like The Mentalist, but instead of watching, instead of Sherlock watching somebody's mannerisms and figuring out if they're lying or not, he's just a little bit more detail oriented on a crime scene. I'm going to give it a few other choices here, or a few other tryouts here, just because I like Johnny Lee Miller a lot. I don't like or dislike Lucy Liu, but I am kind of curious to see how their characters interact and evolve with each other. So, my hopes aren't very high for this, I got to say. I don't know about what do you think? You're the big Sherlock guy.
I'm a huge Sherlock Holmes fan, and I got to tell you, I liked it more than I thought it would. I'm okay with procedures. I prefer a running story arc, but I like procedurals too. I really liked Lucy Liu. I thought she actually did much better than I thought she was going to do, so I was surprised. Because you guys all know I wasn't looking forward to her as Watson, just because she never does anything for me. But she actually did a very good job with it. What I really didn't love was Johnny Lee Miller. He was okay, and he was kind of quirky and interesting. But it's so close in time to Robert Downey Jr. and Benedict Cumberbatch, whatever.
Cumberbunch.
Yeah.
Brian has said it often enough. You should know it by now.
He just pales in comparison. I mean, he's basically setting up of two of the best representations of Sherlock Holmes in the last 2 or 3 decades. Mm-hmm. And it's just too soon, man. He just does not compare with those guys. I instantly turned it off, and I wanted to go watch the Sherlock Holmes movie or the Sherlock BBC TV series. So I'm like Brian. I'll give it a couple more just because I love Sherlock Holmes. But I'd rather watch Monk than this at this point. So, Last Resort, Scott.
Last Resort was one of the ones I was really looking forward to, and I was surprised at how much I enjoyed this. It intrigued me a lot more than Revolution did by far. It takes an interesting, unexpected turn, but I think that turn happens almost too quickly. I know you got to do something in the first pilot to get everybody going. Mm-hmm. But I found that I wish that this had been a 2-hour premiere instead of a 1 hour for a couple of reasons. Number one, like I said, that turn comes too quickly, that climax, but also some of the character development. There was just too much information going on in that story for a 1 hour show, 40-minute show. Mm-hmm. And I would like to see more, but I am definitely on board that show went places that I wasn't expecting it to, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. How about you?
Me? Did we all see this?
Yeah, I saw it.
And Justin, you saw it too?
I have it sitting on my DVR, but I haven't seen it yet.
So that would be a no.
No, I'm busy, man, busy.
Honestly, this is my favorite pilot so far. Mm-hmm. Out of all the 4 that we're talking about, this was my favorite. Even though one has Dennis Quaid in it, which automatically should put it higher. It didn't. I was on the edge of my seat the whole friggin' time. Yeah. A completely new story style.
It's material.
Yeah, it's different. It's new. It's exciting. I have no idea where the hell they go from here.
Same here.
If Quaid was the captain, would you just be splooging everywhere?
I would be cursing you for
now.
now.
On a nonstop loop, I guarantee you. 24/7. He would call in sick. He would take a week's vacation. Yeah. Just to watch it on an endless loop.
I might, man. This is the most interesting pilot I've seen, actually, in probably the last couple of years. It was really interesting.
I mean,
there was a couple of quirky things towards probably the first 10, 15 minutes of the show though that kind of it was like continuity things or something, mm-hmm. or maybe just Actually, no, maybe not so much continuity, but just transition stuff. Like you'll have the XO, the executive officer, and the the lieutenant lady, and they're talking in a stateroom or a hallway or something, and then the exact next scene is they're on the bridge with the captain and everybody, and it just didn't flow right or something. Like there was no, all of a sudden they're kind of arguing or having a whatever type of moment, then all of a sudden cut scene to the next scene, and they're just there on the bridge like dee 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 dee. It seemed there was 2 or 3 little times, and it's nitpicky stuff. Mm-hmm. It just kind of jumped out at me like it's missing some sort of transition to get them from midway through the sub up to the the bridge. I don't know.
I love the mystery aspect of it. The first 10, 15 minutes, you're like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
Well, it's moving so fast, and I think that's part of it. Is they had to move it along. They had a short window to move that along, and I'm. It's like I said, it's nitpicky. I'll definitely overlook it. I agree with you. This is by far probably my favorite pilot premiere of the season, and I'm definitely on board with this for a long time.
And I gotta imagine that when they sold the pilot to ABC, they had to say, "Here's our story arc for season 1 and in the future." So I'm really interested to see how this show moves forward.
I don't know where it's going to go.
I don't either. I mean, because you gotta watch the show, but basically they have Tom.
ABC has ruined a couple of shows like this though, mm-hmm. where it's a great new concept, but they didn't have enough of it planned out. They didn't expect to get more episodes. They didn't have time to kind of wrap things up. Like Flash Forward was a really interesting one that just.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Lost.
Oh, you had to do it.
But everything in the world just kind of, blacks out. Everybody in the world just kind of blacks out.
Yeah.
Except for a small few, and that was really neat with the mystery behind it. But they just ruined it probably by the 6th or 7th episode, and then it just kind of fell apart. So I just hope they don't do it with this.
Well, we'll see what happens. The one that I'm representing is Vegas. That would be my boy Dennis Quaid. He stars as Ralph Lamb. Well, he's not really my boy. He's more like my grandpa. That noise you're hearing is what Justin thinks that I do when I see Dennis Quaid. He plays Ralph Lamb. Lamb is an honorable and crotchety rancher. He's recruited by the mayor to play sheriff in 1960s Las Vegas. See, this is the point where Vegas is kind of just starting up, and they're trying to... The city is starting to get a little glitz and glamour, starting to get a lot more money rolling in. It's starting to attract mobsters and violence, and the mayor feels Lamb is the one guy he can trust to handle it because he's Dennis fucking Quaid. That's why. Michael Chiklis shows up. You guys remember from The Shield and also that wonderful Fantastic Four film, The Thing. He stars as Vincent Savino. It's one of the local mobsters who crosses paths with Lamb, and the show is obviously setting up for more entanglements down the road by having these two cross paths a couple times, because as of right now they're not really involved too much, but they've already rubbed each other the wrong way a couple times. The show so far from the premiere is mostly like a by the numbers murder of the week show, very much a procedural. I can see where they're trying to incorporate a story arc, so I'm interested in it. The characters are interesting, not just Ralph Lamb because he's Dennis Quaid, but his son, or his not his son, his brother partners up with him. He's got several other guys. Yes, not crazy Randy Quaid. He has his actually brother in the show partners up with him, and they're basically investigating murders, and there's a lot more to it, and it's essentially the show is built around Dennis Quaid and his personality outside of the show, because if you know much about him, this is kind of how his personality is. He's very much a guy of the land kind of thing. So it's interesting to see that take on him. It was nice to see him in a movie where he's smiling again, or in a show where he's smiling again, because he's been crotchety and angry for the last few years. So he looks like he's having a lot of fun. I really liked him in the show. He definitely wears the boots well. And Michael Chiklis, he's really good. He seems like he's enjoying being the villain for once. I mean, a real villain. What's that?
Kind of like Dracula. Do they sound the same?
They do. Yeah, Brian, did you see it?
I did. It's got a great cast. The story, it's I don't know. It's something about the what do you call it? The special effects with it, with all the. There's too much obvious blue screen action or green screen, whatever. I mean, for obvious reasons. I mean, obviously they don't have a whole town set up like 1960 Vegas, but I'm going to give it a little bit more time, but it's not really holding on to me very strongly.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's fair enough. But when you say great cast, you mean Dennis Quaid, right?
Oh, man.
Gosh.
All right, Justin.
God, you can't wash it enough, can you?
But his brother's played by the guy from that Land of the Lost reboot or whatever it was on Fox, that dinosaur show.
Yeah.
Jason O'Mara, yeah.
666 Park Avenue, Justin.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to seeing this. I did watch the trailer. For those who don't know, the story of this show is about a building called the Drake, which is at 999 Park Avenue. But of course, in the shadows, it looks like 666. It follows the building and its tenants and its owners, and the primary characters of the show are a young couple who move into the Drake to become what would you call it? They don't own the building, but they run it. And because they're hired on to do this, they're given an apartment within the building. You see early on, though, that not all is as it should be in this building. There's lots of mysterious things going on, people trying to get away from it and unable to do so. All sorts of supernatural shenanigans are going on. The building is owned by Terry O'Quinn and Vanessa Williams as Gavin Dorn and Olivia Dorn. When I saw the premiere or the trailers for it and read some of the news, I really kind of thought Terry O'Quinn's character was actually going to be the devil, because the whole premise of the show looked like he owned the building and then he would get people's souls to be a member of it. That does not look to be the case. but he is still obviously an evil character who is up to some pretty evil things. It was an interesting show, and I like that the hotel itself is not just the name of the show, but also has a character of its own. There's actually a building called the Beaux Arts Building, which they use to film the exteriors of the show, and it's a beautiful building, but there's a history to it that the show starts to allude to, and some mysterious things that went on in the past, things that may be trying to cover it up now, and so there's a lot of mystery to go around. It doesn't take it's serious without being dreadfully serious. There's I wouldn't say any camp, and I wouldn't say funny, but it's not trying to go for the same sort of atmosphere that like Grimm seems to be going for, or some of the other shows that are a little bit darker. It is an ABC show, and you kind of get that. But all in all, I really enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing what they do with it and how the owners of the building learning what their relationship is to the building and its past, and what it's going to do to the residents of the building. But did anybody else see it?
I actually got a chance to see it, yeah. And the opening scene hooked me. I mean, there's a scene that the opening right before the opening credits or whatever that I, to my knowledge, didn't get referenced again until the end of the episode, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens with that. The characters are really interesting. Terry O'Quinn's character, even though he's obviously evil, he's still likable at the same time.
Mm-hmm. That's Terry O'Quinn, though. He's got a certain charm to him that,
true,
even if he was stabbing you, you'd kind of be like, "Oh, you're a good guy."
Everybody should go watch Stepfather, the original Stepfather that he was in. That it's the same kind of character.
Yeah,
where he's very fun and happy, but man, when he went evil, just evil.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
There's a couple creepy scenes too. One in particular in the basement that was a little spooky, and I was surprised that it was that spooky that early on. And like I mentioned with Last Resort, I love the mystery aspect of it and the unknown, and it's keeping me hooked to come back and want to see what happens, what's going on. I'm very, very intrigued.
I really liked it, but I'm really concerned because genre shows on major networks never last.
Yeah, because they can't go that they can't push.
They can't go more than 6-7 million viewers, and on cable this would be a hit already. HBO would be a hit, but on ABC it's already it's okay. I worry about its longevity because of that, and that makes me nervous because you want to get invested in the ongoing story arc, but then it's one of those where you better finish this out, bitches. I better see an ending. You know what I mean?
There is one line that I thought was clever. It's at least if it's going away, I think it's going. And Justin, maybe you'll agree with me. But they're talking about the new managers are moving into the apartment that was because the old manager's not there anymore, and the guy that's showing them the room says something defective. Well, he moved, and where did he move to? I'm not sure. A warmer climate.
Yeah, well, someplace warmer. Yeah.
Was...
There are the tongue-in-cheek God and heaven and hell jokes in there or comments. I don't know if they're quite jokes, but for me, this really didn't keep my attention very much. I watched the other three, Elementary, Last Resort, Vegas, was, just engrossed for the full hour all three times. Midway with this one, I'm picking up my iPad, playing with it while I'm watching it. I'm going to give it probably a couple more episodes, but I don't really, unless something happens here pretty soon, I don't really see this one being kept on my DVR.
Fair enough.
We'll see where it goes.
Let's go to DVD and Blu-ray, Scotty.
With the DVD Blu-ray releases for October 9th, we've actually got three big ones that we've actually already reviewed. The first was Prometheus. If you haven't heard us talk about that one enough, this was a team of explorers that discover a clue to the origins of mankind on Earth, leading them on a journey to the darkest corners of the universe. There they must fight a terrifying battle to save the future of the human race. We did review that one, like I said. You can check that out on episode 46. Also, Rock of Ages. It's a stage musical set to film that follows a small-town girl and a city boy who meet on the Sunset Strip while pursuing their Hollywood dreams. Our review of that can be found on episode 47. Third is The Raven. It's a madman begins committing horrific murders inspired by Edgar Allan Poe's works. A young Baltimore detective joins forces with Poe to stop him from making his stories a reality. That can be our review can be found on episode 40. The fourth one is The Courier. It's a specialist carrier is hired to deliver a mysterious case to the underworld's most dangerous hitman. That stars Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Mickey Rourke. On TV, we've got three big releases as well. Bones, seventh season, as well as It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia's 7th season. I can't believe that show's got 7 seasons. and The League Season 3, which is already pre-ordered.
Ooh, yeah. Hit me with that unknown shit. Flashback.
With that, we'll move on to our Flashback DVD and Blu-ray segment. This is where each week one of our hosts recommend a little-known or obscure film that we hope you'll give a chance. This week it's actually my turn. So I brought to the table here a movie that I was reminded of when I went and saw Pitch Perfect. It's another musical comedy that I'm guessing very few people have seen or even heard of, much less got anybody else to go see it with them. But the movie's called Hamlet 2.
What?
Hamlet 2.
Oh.
Never heard of it?
I didn't know there was a sequel.
Exactly. It's not what you think.
Is it on DVD?
It is on DVD. I saw it in the theater. It stars Steve Coogan, who you might recognize from the filmmaker in Tropic Thunder. Yeah. He's a failed actor turned high school drama teacher who attempts to get his class of gangbangers to put on a stage performance of his own writing. The musical, which is supposed to be a sequel to Hamlet, has the prince and Jesus try to save Gertrude and Ophelia with the use of a time machine. If it sounds ridiculous, it's because it is. And it even gets more ridiculous than that because it's a musical and the songs are hilarious. It's just quirky enough to be hilarious, and where Pitch Perfect rises above Glee by bringing the PG-13 rating, Hamlet 2 pushes it even further by bringing irreverent humor given a much-deserved R rating. And it is genuinely funny. There is some hilarious stuff in this. Outside of the level of humor and concept of the play, you won't find too much original ideas, but if you're a fan of this formula, you'll want to check it out. It is laugh-out-loud funny and as politically incorrect as they come. Hell, one of the songs is called Rock Me Sexy Jesus. Okay. And I'm not making it up. It's worth checking out. I do recommend it.
Just remember that was Scott Clark's recommendation. So send complaints and
I bet the Vatican does not approve it.
It's really
Cross
funny.
Down.
All right, our Stump the Hoe answer. The question was my question. In Looper, Bruce Willis bounces around in time and encounters his former self. But this is actually the third time Willis has done this. Another film was obviously 12 Monkeys. What was the third film this occurs in? A, The Fifth Element, B, The Story of Us, C, The Kid, or D, Surrogates? Scotty said The Kid. Brian said The Fifth Element. Retard. Justin said The Story of Us. The answer was The Kid.
Boom,
Scotty,
bitches.
he sounded way too confident when he answered that. I knew I should have followed his lead.
You should have.
Ridden his curtails.
Now let's go to our From the Outside In topic this week. It's a shorter topic, but it's a little bit more fun. We're talking about what film villains should have won in their respective films. This could be either because we love the villain so much more than the hero, or the villain's plan just simply should have worked, and him losing defies all freaking logic. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Oh, please do.
The Kodan Armada.
Oh, man.
Those motherfuckers were beat by one ship.
That's pretty good.
One ship that really, its big play was to spin around like a top and shoot out missiles.
That's a really good point.
Fucking kidding me. I'm done. Okay. I'm walking away on that.
My first one is Darth Vader. Honestly, the universe's greatest empire couldn't take out a couple Furbies, a carpet remnant, a banished princess, and a guy that just woke up from a 2-year-old nap. It just boggled my freaking mind. Granted, plays great, and you're rah-rahing at the end, but it makes no sense. He should have won.
Yeah.
He had those bitches down.
How about the Mummy? All they did was trying to do was get with his woman. Sure, he killed anything gotten away, but he wasn't a bad guy until he was kept from the woman. He was trying.
That's true.
Seriously, he did.
I mean, he was dusty. It's been a while. You know what I mean?
It's been a while.
You gotta dust that thing off once in a while.
Wow.
What about Gollum?
Yeah.
I mean, what if he would have had the ring? I mean, all he would have been doing is hanging out in a cave, and he would save a whole lot of people, a whole lot of walking.
Well, he did get the ring back at the end, just right before he
surrounded by lava.
5 seconds before he melted.
That's true. Buffalo Bill. Clarice Starling, your dumbass should have been shot so many times in that ending. You walk into the house with a serial killer, and he apparently is just too stupid to shoot you there. Then he gets you in the dark, and he's too stupid to shoot you there. And then he just waits until you turn around, and you're facing your gun right at him, and then he's like, oh, shit. And you're the only one that can see her. I hated that ending. I mean, it worked. It was fun, but he should have won. Come on.
An honorable mention.
Oh, you can mention as many as you want. Go ahead.
Khan.
Don't tell him that.
Oh,
Khan should have beaten Kirk I'm a Star Trek. I'm a Trekkie, so I have all the love in the world. Khan was so much cooler than Kirk, though. I mean, who else is going to be quoting Moby Dick in the middle of the fight? Not Kirk. Kirk's too busy fucking an Oronian chick. Khan should have won. He was a much cooler dude. I mean, Ricardo Montalban. Fuck.
Picard quoted Moby Dick.
That's true.
I'm talking about villain, and Picard came afterward. So
I know.
Khan did it first.
What about the Terminator? I never understood.
thought about that.
The media just didn't work that fast in 1984. He could have killed every Sarah Connor in Southern California before the news caught up to any of them.
It wasn't the Pony Express, dude.
Yeah,
they did have phones.
He's just a slacker. I think he was just poking around, running around trying to find clothes and look muscular and invade biker bars and shit. He should have just went and knocked them off. I mean, how many Sarah Connors could there possibly have been in 1984?
There was 3.
At least 3. Another one, Billy and Stu in Scream, because they were 20 times more interesting than anybody else in that movie, and their plan was freaking genius. How did they not get away with that?
I think it went too deep, man. That's how.
My mom and dad are going to be so mad at me.
And how did the Gremlins not win? How do you get beat by some fuckwit with a perm and a Mogwai?
Corey Feldman.
A Barbie car.
And plus, the Gremlins livened that town up. That town was so dreadful. All those shitty Christmas songs and everything else. They came along. It's a party.
Just the evil witch with the dog hate. That was the only interesting person in that place till they showed up.
This one's kind of cheating, but catch me if you can. How can you not root for Frank Abagnale?
Why is that cheating?
Well, I mean, because he technically was the villain, but you were rooting for him the whole movie. I mean, he was the prime, you know. But it was depressing, you know, he wasn't able to get away at the end. And granted, he had the whole, like, desk job and stuff, but I wanted him to win.
Yeah, me too. You know who else I want? Denzel Washington in Training Day.
Yup.
Ethan Hawke was a fun killer. He's a whiny bitch fun killer. And Denzel was fun. He was fun. He's King motherfucking Kong.
Denzel should have ended that movie like they did Shawshank at the end, dipping his tootsies in the Pacific.
Exactly.
General Francis X. Hummel. Who's that?
In The Rock?
Bam! Oh, damn, Scotty! Oh, man. I'm not giving you a high five. I'm giving you a hug right now.
Wow.
These other bitches didn't get it.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, Alcatraz, that's a good... He should have won.
Yeah.
Yeah, The Rock. You know, it's his motivation for doing what he did was very noble, very, good and everything. He just kind of went around it the wrong way, even though he kind of had that moment of redemption at the very end. But I mean, he was just kind of a good guy doing a bad thing, a very bad thing to help out fallen families of the fallen comrades and stuff. So, you know, Hans Gruber.
Oh yeah.
I
just love me some Alan Rickman. That's all.
Yeah, Alan Rickman, even in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
He was the only good part of that Robin Hood.
What about Agent Smith in The Matrix? 'Cause let's face it, he knew the code, and he was so much cooler than Keanu Reeves. He should have won. He should have won.
He was the code.
Yeah, he was the code.
I was just going to say, I don't mean to be sexist, but Santana Pandemonium and From Dusk Till Dawn never should have died.
Absolutely.
She should have had a franchise of films where all she did was dance with that snake.
Yes, I agree.
You could have heard a pin drop in the theater when I went to go see that.
I like it. Le Chiffre and Casino Royale. I love Daniel Craig. But come on, dude. He's butt naked strapped to a chair. How the fuck do you lose? How does he get out of that?
You're scratching my balls.
Getting his balls smashed.
Yeah. Just stupid.
Ow!
Who didn't squirm in their seats when they saw that scene?
Yeah,
Man. Every guy in the theater drawing up a little straighter in that chair.
Seriously.
My last one was Gerard Butler. Gerard Butler. And Law
Well, at
Abiding.
least you didn't call him Gerald.
Yeah. Well, I can't get his name right no matter what it is. And Law Abiding Citizen. Because I thought, genius plan, even though they're really stupid fucking people working at that prison that you couldn't tell. There's tunnels everywhere. But I hated Jamie Foxx in that movie. And Gerard Butler should have kicked his ass and left him for dead.
That was a surprise movie, by the way. I was surprised.
Not now. If you haven't seen it, surprise over.
No, I mean, I was surprised at how good it was. I did not
was-
expect much out of that. And that movie was violent as hell.
It was better.
I kind of wish Mama and the Tortellis might have
Goonies.
just killed off the
Goonies.
Goonies.
The Goonies. And I agree with you. And Brian, I agree. The shark from Jaws, that was kind of half-assed. This thing has eaten half the frickin' town or the island. And
yeah, for like over 2 hours, it's terrorized this whole island, and all of a sudden, boom! It should have won.
It should have won. Well, thankfully, his relatives came back.
I was going to say, wasn't Jaws the Revenge?
Oh, man.
People run away from him on
Speaking
land.
of sharks, if you're bad enough to jump up out of the water and eat Samuel L. Jackson, you're bad enough to end the movie alive.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Deep Blue Sea. All right, let's go into closing. We've got a couple emails that I will read off. One, it's been a while, a week since I wrote in. What?
I'm singing that again. I cannot hear that fucking phrase without singing the Stain song.
Stain song.
Oh, my God.
I can't.
It's been a while, weeks
it's
since I wrote in.
Reaction.
That year's in Internet Age. Great show as always. I'm in agreement with you on Dread. That's right, Justin. I know what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. I thought it was a pretty slick action flick, although I didn't see it in 3D. Listening to the praise of the 3D from you guys, I might have to change that. Usually 3D bugs my eyes and will detract more than it adds to the movie. And also the answer for this week's movie is from Dusk Till Dawn. Nice segue in the show where you talked about the show on Fox about vampires right after that What's the Movie clip. Was that intentional? Either way, genius hint, Paul S. Yes, it was intentional. That's actually what made me think of the vampire movie. So, good catch, though, because nobody else thought that. This comes from Dan. He says, a true classic from Dusk Till Dawn. At one point in college, I even used the Everybody Be Cool, you be cool on my answering machine message. The soundbite is on the movie soundtrack. And it's a good soundtrack. I like the soundtrack a lot.
Yeah.
After a long and miserable week, you guys got a big smile out of me with this one. So thanks, Dan. All right. We got one more from Ashley. She guessed the clip was from Dusk Till Dawn. Aaron, bravo for making it all the way through the skin I live in. I completely agree with your entire review. Antonio Banderas has never been better, and the plot is totally original. But that doesn't change the fact that you really don't want to admit to your friends that you've seen it. I don't mind admitting it. I just don't want to ever see it again because it fucks you up. Don't watch it once, then go away. But I really did get a kick out of the fact that you actually saw it. Thanks so much. No problem. I've been telling you I'd see it for about 3 months. So I guess at some point, since you listen every week, I should probably be respectful and oblige.
So just to be clear, you want us to see a movie, tell us 3 weeks in advance, 3 months in advance.
No, everybody else is very good about it. I slacked.
Ashley's not the first woman you've ever disappointed.
We don't have time for that. As for the rest of you, I was watching The Notebook with my boyfriend because he hasn't seen it before. We are both Ryan Gosling fans, so I guess she's not dating Brian. And I told him Ryan is good in it. While watching, I had a thought. I hate chick flicks, but there are a few films I enjoy that bring a tear to my eye every time. The Notebook is one of those movies. Others include The Green Mile and First Time Felon. While the credits rolled, my boyfriend turned to me, only to find I was uncontrollably weeping, not like me at all. Are there any movies you guys always have an emotional response to? Justin, you can go.
Yes.
You can go last because it's probably like we don't have time for that kind of list. Scott, do you have any that make you weepy?
I have one, but I'm ashamed to admit it.
Okay.
Obviously, you guys know I'm going to be a teacher, and I actually recently watched Mr. Holland's Opus. In the end, when all the students are there and they have performed his thing that he spent his entire time writing, and they do it all for him, and he loses it. I can't help it. That's like those are the moments that like why I want to be a teacher. So I don't know.
That's very sweet.
Yeah.
Dead Poets Society kicks that movie's ass.
Which one?
Dead
Dead Robots.
Dead Poets Society.
Gotcha.
The worst part is I didn't even catch that. I'm like, oh yeah, that was good.
My podcast rules that movie.
What about you, Brian?
Yeah, anything sports movies, like Remember the Titans, Miracle, those kinds get me. Anything military where the one that comes to mind first is Men of Honor with Cuba Gooding Jr. and Robert De Niro.
Okay.
The scene where he says, "Stand up, Cookie," when he makes him walk, with that, after all the stuff that he's been through back in the day with the Navy divers and stuff, that part puts me in tears. And I don't even care who's around. So stuff like that. Anytime somebody shows, I guess, a sense of honor or respect when they've spent 3/4 of the movie hating on the other person, tends to get to me.
I gotcha. Nothing in Common. The Jackie Gleason, Tom Hanks movie, that gets me every time. Frequency. And this is one of the reasons I love Dennis Quaid, because of that movie. But the very end where the father and son are reunited, that really gets me every time.
Yeah.
E.T., I hate to say it, I get weepy in E.T. Mostly because my mommy took me and, blah, blah, blah. But it's one of those where it's just so sweet and innocent. One of the few innocent movies I can say. So it gets me. Justin, do you got your list ready?
Yeah, I think I got it.
I know one.
I'm a complete puss when it comes to movies, and I will cry quite openly and unmanly. Shit, where to even begin? When Harry Met Sally, at the end, when he rushes to her and says, that moment when you realize that you want to spend the rest of your life with someone and you want the rest of your life to start, I weep. Surprisingly, and I didn't see it coming, but when I watched Fellowship of the Ring, when Boromir kept rising after getting shot with arrows to defend the hobbits, just the combination of music, the slow motion photography, it was just, I wept in the theater, and just loud, because it was just so heroic. Hell, at the end of Return of the King, when the hobbits go to bow to the king, and Aragorn says, you bow to no one. I fucking
that got me too. Yeah, where everybody kneels to them.
Yes, and they're the hobbits just looking around like, what's happening? What did we do? It gets me. But probably the movie that really gets me the most, and it was a movie I did as a flashback a little while ago called Breaking the Rules. It's got Jason Bateman, C. Thomas Howell, Jason Silverman, and Annie Potts. It's just one of those movies that years ago, it's been a long time since I've rewatched it. But if I knew, and this is going to sound weird, but I knew if I needed a good cry just to vent something, put that movie in, and by the end of it, I am just weeping buckets with a tissue, because it got me every single time. But I cry a lot in movies. Yeah. Hell, fuck! At the end of Armageddon, when
Jesus,
fucking Ben Affleck is
I
trying
love
to
you,
get
Harry.
off the shit, and Bruce Willis tears his suit so he won't get out, and he's saying, "Take care of my daughter." I start weeping, and then he gets on the intercom with Liv Tyler, and she's crying, and I'm crying, and then they get down to land, and I can't remember the actor's name, though I love him to death. Walks up to Liv Tyler and says, "I just want to shake the hand of the daughter of the bravest man I've ever known." I fucking weep. I cry a lot at movies. I have no shame.
No, you don't. Okay, well, you can always find us at thehollywoodoutsider.com. Make sure you stay to the credits for outtakes, where Justin will probably still be crying. You can find us on facebook.com/thehollywoodoutsider. Email us at feedback@thehollywoodoutsider.com. Please tell your friends. Subscribe on iTunes, Zune, Google. Listen on your Stitcher radio app. Give us a thumbs up if you do, or any plain old RSS feed. We're also on RockfordCollegeRadio.com Thursdays from 4 to 6. Please nominate us for the 8th Annual Podcast Awards. You can find the information on our website at thehollywoodoutsider.com. We would really like to be nominated for an award, because that'd be bitching. So I want to thank each of the
validation so much.
Thanks to all those that already have nominated. We've had
a lot of people nominated, so we
people.
really do appreciate that. But the more the merrier. So you can find our host contact info on the website. And thanks, Brian Williams, for being here.
Nominate our asses, damn it.
We like his angry sales pitch. Scott Clark.
Please nominate us, our good friends.
And that's the
You're
pathetic
such
one.
a pussy.
Yeah. And Justin McCumber.
I would say nominate us, but I got to make this about me for a second.
Yep.
There's a shocker.
There's a first.
A friend of mine named Scott Roche. He's a fellow author, podcaster. He has an online website where they put out monthly magazines of fiction. It's Flying Island Press. He's doing a new anthology called The Way of the Gun, and it's an interesting anthology because he's wanting to do stories that are westerns, but with a Bushido edge to it, very much a samurai edge to these characters. And he asked me to be a part of the anthology, and I'm more than happy to do so. And we're already talking about the story I'm going to do, and it's vampires and guns and the Old West, and it should be really cool. But he's doing a Kickstarter for it to pay for editing, cover, all that stuff. Kickstarter seems to be the way to go for a lot of people. But I'm hoping that if you guys are interested in more of my fiction, or hell, just reading the fiction of a lot of other great authors who are going to be in it with me, he's doing the Kickstarter. You can go to kickstarter.com projects. Hopefully Aaron will put a link to this on the website, because the URL is way too long for me to give here. But it's called The Way of the Gun, a Bushido Western anthology. I'm looking forward to doing it, but I can't do it if it doesn't get funded, and it needs $5,000. There's a month to go, and we've got about 400 so far. So hopefully you guys will be interested, and you want to read my story, The Dragon and the Sparrow.
And Justin McCumbers never met anything he couldn't pitch.
Nope.
So next week we'll be reviewing.
And nominate us for a award.
Yeah. Be sure to give Justin money, but then nominate us for an award. Right. We will be reviewing Taken 2 next week. We'll have a new From the Outside In topic and more on the next Hollywood Outsiders. So the next time you go to a theater, remember, buy popcorn.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
You just made up a word.
Kerfuffle?
Is it a word, kerfuffle?
Is it a word?
Yeah.
Yes, that's actually a word.
Fuck, I'm just stupid then.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud?
That's right.
I don't want to chair so much as one of those stools that you can lean back on, so it takes a little pressure off your legs. It allows you to rest without, bending at the waist and knees, which is what cuts off a lot of that circulation and is therefore gets rid of the benefit of a stand-up desk.
I got a bike. I've got a bicycle without a seat on it. If you want to sit on that.
I've got to get this book edited. That is my primary thing this week.
What's your deadline?
This week.
Oh.
Fuck you guys! I go home.
Come on, you guys!
Oh, that was the worst Cartman I've ever. Fucker, I was ready half hour ago.
No, you weren't.
I was. You weren't. How much training you got to do to move furniture? Pick it up and you move it.
This is the Hollywood... Fuck, goddamn.